All right, here we go with our quick review of 1.3. So we just did addition. Now we're going to do subtraction. So let's just do some quick examples of subtracting. So if I take 8 minus 3, in other words, if I have 8 objects and I subtract or take away 3 of them, hopefully you know that that's 5. 11 minus 11 is 0. 9 minus 6 is 3. And 12 minus 0 is 12. Number 2 is an interesting problem. It's just they kind of want you to do some mental math here. So if we look, it says, given that this is a fact, 300 minus 50, well, if you take 300 and you subtract 50, you get 250. So if I use that fact, then what is 300 minus 56? Well, here's what they're asking you to think of. Well, if I take the 300 and if I first subtract 50, that means I'm going to get 250. But then I have to subtract 6 more to get the 56. So if I take 250 minus 6, that's going to be 244. So that's kind of where they're going with that problem. It's not really that important for you to understand that, but they're trying to get you to do some mental math. So again, if I take 300, subtract first of all the 50, that's going to give me 250, and then take away 6 more, that would give me 244. We're going to review regular subtraction on the next page, so you can always go back and use that. All right, so like I said before, for each one of these sections, they're going to kind of slide you a little bit into some subtraction. So we're going to translate using numbers and symbols, and I'm again going to use n as my variable, but you can use any one of the 26 letters you want. So this first one, 3a, says a number minus 1. Well, my number's n, minus 1 means subtract 1. So that's what you're going to do. Now, here we have to be careful. If I want 8 subtracted from a number, if I want to take 8 and subtract it from the number, that means I want to take the number minus 8. Whenever you see this word here, from, it flips the number and the variable. So that would be n minus 8. For this one, for C, if I want 10 less 4, do you see the word from there? Nope. If I want 10 less 4, that simply means I want 10 minus 4. So there are actually 2 expressions that flip the number and the letter. From is one of them, and we're going to see the other one in a couple of minutes. So just know that another one is coming. So remember we did commutative property for addition, which meant it didn't matter what order you add numbers in. It does matter what order you subtract numbers in. So there is no commutative property for subtraction. 8 minus 3 does not equal 3 minus 8. Some more evaluate. Remember the 2 words I had were plug and chug. So if I want to evaluate 25 minus x, and first of all, I'm going to be given for a that x is equal to 4. So I'm just going to take that 4 and I'm going to substitute it in. So that would be 25 minus 4. So to evaluate, it means give me the answer. That would be 21. And I want to do it again, but this time I'm telling you x is equal to 15, so that would be 25, and this time I'm going to subtract 15. If you subtract 25 minus 15, you're going to get 10. All right, let's go on to page 2. So let's review how we subtract. So for this one, 504 minus 326, write it vertically first. Now here we go. So if I'm going to go ahead and subtract, you start on the right-hand side, but can I take 4 and can I take 6 away from that? No. So we have to borrow. In subtraction is where you talk about borrowing. So I go next door and I want to borrow 1 from the next door person, but they don't have any left. So I can't borrow from there, which means then I have to go next door here. So here's what happens. I'm going to borrow 1 from the 5, which leaves a 4, which gives the second guy a 10. So the 1 comes from here. It can't go all the way back here. The 1 comes from the 5, makes this now a 10. Now, I still can't take 4 minus 6, but now when I go next door here, they do have something I can borrow. So I'm going to borrow 1 from the 10, which leaves 9, which makes this a 14. And now I can go ahead and I can do all my subtracting. 14 minus 6 is 8, 9 minus 2 is 7, and 4 minus 3 is 1. And the answer is 178. So it's going to take some practice with that borrowing thing if you haven't done it in a while. But for this course, the only time that you're going to be allowed to use a calculator is for a small part of your very last exam, Chapter 8, when we do percents. So know that. Otherwise, there's no calculator at all allowed for the whole course. We're making sure that you can use your brain. All right, so here we go. So let's take 6,002 and let's subtract 4,038. So we got some borrowing to do here again. So look what happens here. Can I do 2 minus 8? No. So holy mackerel, I go next door. They have nothing to borrow. I go next door to them. They have nothing to borrow. Finally, I go here. They have 1 to borrow. So I'm going to borrow 1 from the 6, which leaves a 5, which makes that a 10. I'm going to borrow 1 from this 10, which leaves a 9, which makes this a 10. Now this one has something to borrow, so I'm going to borrow 1 from the 10, which leaves 9, and making that one a 12. So 12 minus 8 is 4, 9 minus 3 is 6, 9 minus 0 is 9, and 5 minus 4 is 1. And there's the answer. Last one in this section. So we're going to talk about perimeter again. And again, just like with the other picture, this is not part of the perimeter. It's kind of on the inside. If I talk about perimeter, I'm just talking about the distance around the outside. So it looks like that. All right, so again, there are 2 lengths that we don't know. We do not know, for example, this length right here. Well, if you look carefully, I can find that length. That length would be this whole thing right here, that 25. Take away this 14. If I have all of 25 and I take 14 away, I'm going to be left with whatever the length that is. So this length would be 25 minus 14, or 11. That little part right there. I had to do something similar with this guy right here. Well, let's see, how do I get that guy? Well, if I take, excuse me, if I take this whole thing, which is 20, that would be all the way from here to here, and I have to subtract out that little part. What is that little part? It's 7. So this right here will be 20. That's this whole part, minus this part, which is 7, which is 13. So I believe now we have everything we need. So I just like to kind of mark where I start, and I'm going to go clockwise. So I'm going to have 7 plus, if I keep going, 14 plus this side right here is 13. Plus this side right here is 11, plus this whole side here is 20, plus this side here is 25. And I'm going to add these all together. Now notice I went horizontally this time. That's okay. So let's see, if I just kind of group them together. If I add 7 plus 14, that's going to be 21. If I add 13 and 11, that's going to be 24. And if I add 20 and 25, that's going to be 45. So now if I add 21 and 24, that's going to be 45. And 45 plus 45 is 90 feet. And that is the perimeter of that figure. And there we're done with 1.3.